Yes, we can see it.
Okay, so yeah, Cloverdale's the part of Surrey where I'm currently broadcasting from, and as you can see, it's almost 5,000 kilometers away. Is this the correct spelling of your community, Stanton?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so it's this is quite remarkable to be in this era where we're able to come together, and you know, with technology, it is something that brings us the opportunity. This is my first chance to meet with your sections, and I'm extremely delighted that you've provided me with this opportunity. Two updates. I will be in Charlotte as well, giving a presentation. So if any of you are going to that World Conference, I hope that if we see each other, you'll tap me on the shoulder and say hello, and I'd look forward to meeting you. I've been to Charlotte previously for World Conference. It's a very beautiful city, and at the time there's also a big NASCAR event. So I know, you know, stock car racing is very big there. The other thing is that earlier this year I had the opportunity to um, be broadcast, and that's now in the Quality for Life site. I won't play that now, but you can certainly, I'll put it in the chat box, and you can look at this at your leisure. It's actually timely because one of the things I use as an example of quality is organizing your decorations for Christmas, and now that the season's over, you might get some discounts. And so to those of you, if I haven't already extended, Happy New Year to you, and all the best in 2017. So today's topic, new tricks for old dogs. This was originally prepared for my ASQ members who are based in Western Canada, and as you may be aware, certain things have happened this year with respect to the oil and gas industry that's affected people's employment. So what's driving this is how, if you are in quality in one industry or one role, how you can use ASQ to help you transition. And I've done this throughout my career, throughout the 20 plus years that I've been involved. And this presentation breaks it down, not just my own story, but also how this can be applied if you want to attempt the same thing. First of all, let's see. When I broadcast, I always give a bit of a pause. Can you now see a slide of the Dilbert cartoon?
Yes.
Okay, so before we get into the really technical items, quality is very much a value-driven profession. It's I would almost put it as a vocation, and you never stop being a quality person. So and I draw a lot of inspiration from people. One such person is a Canadian political figure who's since passed away. After he died, he gave the message that, you know, love, hope, and optimism, and these are very good traits to approach whatever challenges you have in the world. And I've expanded upon this, that as far as quality, if we're committed, if we're principled, if we're respectful and accountable, by having these traits and bringing these, impacting whatever we do and whoever we encounter with these particular attributes, that will make everything better. And you know, the Dilbert cartoon mocks the values, but I truly feel that in the quality profession, we're not just the voice of the customer, we're the voice of authenticity and integrity, and sometimes it's a very lonely role. So it takes a very special person. I think that for you to be here on a Saturday morning, you're all to be commended for that conviction, and I hope that this continues to reinforce those values to which you ascribe and which you hope to pass on to others. So as far as the career transition, I've broken it down into five themes, which I'll repeat across multiple examples. So the first thing, the desire, is understanding what is driving the change and why it's the, and this could be a number of reasons. It could be because it's something you always wanted to do. It could be, maybe something happened in your life that you've changed your perspective. And it's not necessarily even that it has to be upward. For example, I have an older sister who was a school administrator, and then she reached a point in her life where she recognized she was much more happy and fulfilled when she was directly teaching in the classroom again. So understanding what's driving it and why you want to go in this direction. The second thing is taking account of what you have. There's actually a theme of an advertising campaign in Canada from one of the banks where they describe you're richer than you think, and quite often people underestimate themselves, especially in a field like quality. We're used to looking for non-conformances and things to improve that we don't always appreciate the positive aspects and what we bring to the table. So even what we have individually is one set, but also by participating in a particular industry, the demands of just having to survive and thrive in that industry over a course of years will strengthen us. And I've got a specific example in the next slide. As part of any transition, you will have to adopt new skills, and this is where you have to, before you make that transition, understand, is it something feasible? Are you capable of doing it? And I use the word incremental because over life we are already having to adapt to changing technology, changing capabilities. How can we use that to our advantage? Credentials. This is where affiliation with a professional society like ASQ can be very beneficial. And in the examples, I've identified some of the credentials which were pertinent to this. As part of that credential development, it also drives the specific areas that you want to be involved in. For example, if one of the examples is the quality management, the manager of quality certification, ASQ, in addition to the sections, supplements what the section does with having specific divisions, and then if you pursue a particular area of interest, those divisions can reinforce that exposure and support your achievement of those credentials. And the fifth one, I've termed ride the wave. What this means is that you have to follow different cycles every 7 to 10 years. What's high will become low, what's out of fashion will suddenly become back in fashion. And this can be whether it's an industry like resources in oil and gas where the prices can fluctuate. It could be the adoption of technology where different there are different demands and trends, and based on those trends, how can you manage your career transition to capitalize on those trends at the right time? The second bullet point in this is connecting with positive and popular initiatives. When any of you who have the opportunity to attend the conference will see a number of presentations on this, things like business transformation, social responsibility, and even the third one, public service. Those of you who may be familiar with the Baldrige program will recognize that healthcare and education facilities are now dominating those organizations which are getting recognized by the Baldrige Award. And you can't outsource a hospital, you can't outsource a university. Those things are part of the community, and so that also those who may want to continue their career in a particular location could orient back to those types of organizations. So there are many different reasons, and as I go through the examples, and they're drawn from personal examples, I'll repeat these themes. But before I do, I want to give an example of how working in resources enhances and strengthens a portfolio. So just someone a normal day in the life, and I'm not saying resources any better than anywhere else, but just as an example of how You can use what you're doing as part of your regular work where this is leveraged across different environments. So things like project management, working under pressure, can you meet the time scale? Can you do things in a very demanding environment and deliver, especially if it's difficult and diverse, when you can manage across multiple challenges. This communicates that you're adaptable and nimble, and that versatility is itself a very good asset to have. Large value contracts, quite often some of these, you could be in an industry where you're managing things in the thousands or even millions of dollars, where the impact of one decision or one improvement can be the difference between success or failure at a very large scale. So that's something that can then be leveraged across other things, when you can point to a particular saving which generated or which prevented losses in the thousands and millions of dollars. Health and safety excellence. This is not only good for a company, it also represents vigilance and awareness of regulations and care and consideration. When companies have extreme quality problems, they tend to have health or safety implications. A good example is, if any of you travel by air, you'll notice that there are now restrictions on a particular phone model by Samsung because of the fire risk. So you won't let them on the plane. So that's an example where the orientation to health and safety, that type of orientation could have prevented an extreme quality issue. And having that mentality, I think, is very important, and it can't be underestimated, especially when there's a problem. And finally, the technically challenging projects that you have, this there's no shortage of opportunities for someone who's willing to resolve and troubleshoot. And the more frequently you have to do this, the better you are at this, the better your capabilities are to get new problems to solve. So the first, in my personal transition, I initially went to university and specialized in marketing. So I was in sales and marketing roles when I recognized that the company I was trying to promote was having service quality problems. It's in the specific case, we were having a problem with our customer operations and support, answering the phones in a timely manner and getting back to them. So because of these service gaps, I recognized that there is a direct link between the service quality consistently delivered and the ability to generate new sales at higher levels. So that recognition reoriented me to do more in improving the service quality itself. And some of it is, one of the things with marketing is you want to have the most flamboyant message, when in fact the appropriate step is to manage expectations to what you can deliver. So that's one of the first orientation, is to change those gaps. And then at the time, the prevailing book, Tom Peters and Waterman, In Search of Excellence, showed the connection between top performers in an industry with respect to quality and the financial success of those top performers. So there was causation and correlation between quality and profitability. So my credential at that time was to become qualified with what was then the ISO 9002. That was the 9001 with the design component excluded. So that was really my first step into quality. And in the early 90s, quality wasn't as entrenched as it is now, as far as a way to make a living. So the second transition, now that I was in quality, I recognized that I had a desire to shift from intangible services to a more specific product quality. And I had that existing orientation from quality improvement and from the document control, which back when it was ISO 9002 and 9001 were distinct standards, that their only real difference was adopting the design element. So that's what I had to add new, and as part of that, understanding the basics of quality engineering. That's ASQ was formed because of quality engineering and statistical process control. And at the time, in the late 1940s, those were revolutionary practices. So this got me the opportunity to really get hands-on understanding of what quality was. At the time, in the mid-90s, this predated Six Sigma and Lean. So the overarching theme was total quality management, and that incorporated quality engineering, theory of constraints, all of the things from Crosby and Duran and Deming, and I still have that big thick Duran quality handbook, and it's still, I read it today and I learn new stuff in it. So making this transition, I think, was the most technically challenging. The third one, going from manufacturing to specifically to medical devices, the desire of this was I was facing in manufacturing, I was facing situations where quality was discretionary relative to cost and schedule, and sometimes those things are compromised. In medical devices, and this is by law, quality is mandatory, and that's not just the quality of the product, but the quality system governing the organization. So I felt that for someone making a living in quality, it's better to be where your services are needed and required and essential to the success of the company. So at that point, I already had 9001, I already had the corrective preventive action, the audits. Going into medical devices, especially internationally, at the time it was, the company I was with was exporting both to the United States and to Europe, so FDA pre-regulatory or pre-market clearance, CE mark approvals, these particular barriers to entry demanded more stringent quality protocols than what I was used to in manufacturing, so I had to expand, particularly with product traceability. I had to trace back to the origin, and this is you know, some of the ASQ credentials that were pertinent were biomedical and HACCP, which I think are still both very good and offer a lot of very good quality content. At the time I got it, this is an extension of the CQA. So when I got it, it was CQA biomedical, CQA HACCP, and they've since ASQ has since made those self-standing certifications. I think that there's also with medical, there's innovative technology, but I knew that what I was working on was not only a good product that would be profitable for the company, but the use of that had a social benefit as well. It helped with the diagnosis and care of patients, and so there was a link between what I was doing and a benefit to society, which I found very fulfilling. So the fourth transition, I just right now make sure that my screen is, you're seeing, are you now seeing the software QA?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so it's coming back to the early 2000s, technology had evolved such that it seemed as if for every job in conventional quality, there were about 4 or 5 jobs in the software portion. So it was higher demand, and with the higher demand came better negotiation, and it was, so it was a purely looking at how can I improve my lot in life, and based on what I know. From the medical side, I had the capabilities with product testing and tracking, and on the software side, what I had to pick up on was the software testing, automated testing, which is, in over the last 15 years, that's something that's really expanded, and then extending from that hands-on portion to the project management and business analysis, so that you understand the full context with respect to what the customer wants and what the product is supposed to do. And it's the distinction between the software and say service or manufacturing is software quality is far more oriented at the concept and design phases. Once you can't wait for it to be built and then inspect out the defects. The influence has to be at the very start. ASQ has a software quality engineered certification, which is still very, the body of knowledge is being updated, so it's a way to help with that transition. And at the time, there was what was called the dot-com boom, but now in the workplace, technology is frequently, even this very presentation is a demonstration of how we can use technology to offer something at our own convenience. And the ASQ, one of the divisions is a software division which specializes in this area, so anyone looking to pursue that would be well served to and expand from their section involvement to explore what the divisions have. And that goes back to also, if you're in medical device, there are biomedical division, there's food and drug and cosmetic division. So there's some specialty within ASQ that can support whatever transition you wish to pursue. In doing this, there's an expansion. Once you become reliable in your portion of the product, you eventually can build up the trust and take on a broader, more managerial role. And this is not exclusive to software. It also happens where, because the quality person is on top of all of the issues, they have their pulse on what's going on, and because they have to resolve the problems, they often become the subject matter expert on a technical and business side, and they're a bridge between different groups. Doing a quality role puts you in a very good situation to take on a leadership role. So looking for a more managerial role, broadening the control, this is something which I could take the subject level content and then enhance it with program management, team management. In the software side, there's a capability maturity model and IT infrastructure libraries, but also from ASQ, the Certified Manager of Quality. At the time I took it, it was called the CQM, the Certified Quality Manager. So they've since changed that to emphasize the organizational side. But that particular certification expands the body of knowledge to include team management, project management, cost management. Another very good one is the Master Black Belt, which anything that goes beyond the technical, because when you have to report upwards to the C-suite, the senior management level, you're looking, they don't need to be brought into the precise information. They want to know the high-level summaries and the impact of the business. So with the reason that I drove to this area was that the projects were more frequent, and this is, when you have part of the overall versatility, that gives you additional advantages. Now, the current role that I'm in what I call my day job is more of a, it's performance excellence, but could also be operational excellence. One of the realities in a global environment, just as it's easy for me to provide this presentation from British Columbia, Canada, it's just as easy for someone to do that from one of the lower wage geographies, whether it's South America or Southeast Asia or Eastern Europe, and that's a reality in our world, especially. We have a global environment. When people are capable of doing the work, then this is something that companies can pick strategically. So I was looking for a role that was not as much of a target for offshoring, and this is where I'm in the current role now. So I could bring my professional skills, the Lean Six Sigma methodologies, which you know, when I learned them, it predated both Lean and Six Sigma. It was called Total Quality Management, and even then, like, what's the origin of the control chart goes back to Schuhart in the early part of the 1900s. So they're not lean methods, they're not Six Sigma methods, they're not even TQM methods. They're just quality engineering methods that from which that were the foundation. So to support this, the Six Sigma, the black belt, and a master black belt, which I'm pursuing and looking to qualify for in the future. This is my current track, and one of the waves that supports my current role is that companies are looking for cost efficiencies from within. They're looking for internal gains. They can no longer expect to grow by charging more for their product. Now they have that charge, what's your retail price or what you can get from your customer is flat and pressured downwards. So then you have to, if you're going to make gains, it has to be done internally. And then by emphasizing the expertise, that hopefully puts me in a more stable and predictable role with respect to where my present career track is going. And the seventh career track, and this is something that's available to anyone in ASQ, is to enhance what you do as a day job through either teaching it or being an author or presenter. And in this case, I wanted to do it. It's something I pursued, and I gravitated towards people who were doing it already and tried to understand, you know, what they had done to get to this point. So what I brought was I had the source knowledge and enthusiasm, and then willingness to engage. I put the word malleability. What that means is that if I needed mentorship, I would take the coaching and make the adjustments. This is extremely important if you write articles for a peer-reviewed journal and you've got multiple sets of editing, and the editors will come back. By the time you're done, the comparison of what the article you have versus what you initially submitted is night and day, and it can be a bit of a humbling experience to have what you think is a good piece of written work come back as if it's something that failed grade 7 English. So you really have to be open-minded and receptive to do this. There are techniques for both training and communication and following the necessary approach, which you know, I've had to adopt and still do. The credentials, being a technical trainer, it's not just standing up and reciting. It's there's understanding what the lesson plan is and pacing. And for example, one of the reasons where I'm using the same 5 items is that repetition reinforces the concept. So if when I first started teaching, I just is like an information dump, and that actually, it's not about how much information you give, it's how much is received and can be retained by those who take the course. So where this works for me, it doesn't work for everyone. Where it works for me, first of all, is I'm an expressive person, so it pursues one of my interests. It enhances my day job, and especially in times when I was doing software testing, I'd work in a testing lab and not interact with anyone outside of my core team, so all of a sudden being able to teach gave me that outlet to communicate and interact, which provided very good balance in my life. And one of the things that I aspire to do is you know, be one of these conference keynote speakers that if you go to Charlotte, you'll see that the assemble at 2,000 people, 3,000 people, you know, being entertained for an hour. And I think that that's something that as part of that transition I'd like to work towards. So this is all very much a work in progress. So I just Can you see the managing your transition next step slide?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So what does this mean for those of you who are attending? And it could be at different points, whether you're just starting out, whether you've come into quality after, say, having 10 years in another function, and then all of a sudden you show up one morning, hey, guess what, you're the new quality manager, and you have to try to bring yourself up to speed. Or you could be a 30-plus year person, and because of situations outside of your control, you suddenly find yourself on the outside looking in. So what I hope to do is give you some items which will help with whatever transition you seek. So the first thing is to visualize what is it that you really want, and when you have this in mind, this will sustain the persistence through difficulties, through delays. If it's something you really want to do, are you willing to go across town or travel to another community to pursue it? So before you can get what you want, you have to understand what it is you really want and what you're prepared to do to pursue it. And I think that if it's not something you're really ready to fight for, then it's when you are confronted with the difficulty, you'll give up on it. So I think that it's very important to cultivate that desire first. Do your own inventory. Where I work, we have an item called Gallup Strengths Finder. Gallup is an organization which you get a questionnaire, and based on that questionnaire, it indicates which of the 30 strengths you most dominate are most dominant within you, and that in turn will, by working from your strengths, you'll understand where you will be most effective. So bring your capabilities, which as you align them, when you match those capabilities to the gaps or needs of an organization, quite often that'll make a very good connection to address what you can do and what that organization how they can benefit and how there could be mutual benefit. And then you align and prioritize with what the demands and desires are. And what could happen is that sometimes they may believe that you can serve them in one role, but if you've got another capability that has even more value, the highest value that you can provide, that's where you should target. So you may be a good configuration management, but if you're also good at new designs and there's more money to be made with new designs, that's what you should pursue. Understand what you have to add new. Recognize that nobody comes in already knowing stuff, and even if you've worked in the industry in the past, the rate of innovation between technology, new methods, collaborations, these are always things that you have to recognize that and approach it with humility, that you don't always know everything. So come in and be receptive. The phrase "learn how to learn," understand, take time to read and to listen to what the top producers, top performers are doing, and incorporate those particular lessons. Informational interviews as part of any transition, and it's not just when you're looking for work, but when you even understand how to do your own job that you're currently in more effectively. The informational interviews offer coaching. One of the benefits of a professional society like ASQ is that you can do this within the context and confines of the organization. If you were today wanted to seek out the services of a life coach or career coach, that can cost hundreds, even thousands of dollars for a 2 or 3 hour session. You can get the same thing within ASQ at a section event, at a networking event, and then just arrange over a cup of coffee to talk to someone who is more than willing to share and impart whatever they know to help you along. One benefit, and especially if you're in the Charlotte area, all the people coming in to make their presentations, when I come to present, I present for an hour, and then I'm at the conference for 3 days. If someone were to reach out and say, Dan, do you have 10 or 20 minutes for some questions over coffee or at a hospitality suite, I'd be delighted to do that, and it doesn't cost you anything. We're already there, and in turn, I can learn something from you. So it's something I think that ASQ, the reason that you want to be part of this is to get those contacts and you know, whether it's mentorship, whether it's peer exchange, whatever you want to call it, it's just good to get that direct knowledge. And then the last part, ride the wave, understand what is popular and how can you take those trends and use them to your advantage. The two examples, globalization, technology, this very presentation again is an example of both of that. I'm presenting from a far off location. The attendees are dispersed across multiple locations as well, and listening to this in the convenience of wherever they're at. And then starting from where we were in the early part of the 20th century to where we are today, and then looking at what's going to be popular and different in the next 3 years, the next 20 years. So keeping this in mind and understanding how to use this to your advantage. Now, as far as tricks, Norval, can you see this cost-effective renewals?
Sure can.
Okay, so this is one more trick. I use the phrase old dogs. I'm not implying that any of you are old or are dogs. It's a play on the expression, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. So if you are using this to renew and get a recertification unit, I think that an hour session gives you 0.1 units. But now if you were to take this information, write a summary and have that published in a newsletter or peer-reviewed journal, all of a sudden you get either half or a full recertification unit. So with ASQ, the rewards are a lot better when you have active involvement. So that also, we've got 2 section chairs on who are always looking for new volunteers. If you can do that, that benefits you and it benefits your local section. So everybody wins. With respect to this trick, if you renew your membership more than a month in advance, you get a promotional code that'll save $69, and I've used this a few months ago, so it's valid, it works, and I think that for the cost of renewing whatever interest you might make on the $160 US to renew, that interest will be more than the benefit of getting your promotion code is much better. And the second thing is you can renew. You don't have to be an ASQ member to write or renew certifications, but if you renew as a member and you have more than one, you can synchronize into a single application. If you're not a member, you have to renew each one. So that's why I've got the second thing about synchronizing my certifications. This is something that I've been doing for over 15 years, and I didn't recognize it until I noticed that non-members cannot synchronize their certifications. So that at the end of the day, what that means is that I paid $20 to renew 7 certifications in 2016. If I was not a member, that would have cost me $763. So the last trick is, if you're recertifying, use the promo code and make sure to do it as a member where you can recertify. And that way, if it's cheap and if it's convenient, you'll continue to keep it in good standing. What ends up happening is if you don't renew it, all the work that you did to get that certification will be lost because it'll expire. So now, not all of some certifications you don't need to renew, like the green belt, the CQT. These ones, once you write the exam, you're set. You can retain that. But some of the other ones, any of the audit ones and like the ones that have engineer in them, so whether it's quality engineer, software quality engineer, reliability engineer, these ones have to, every 3 years you have to either rewrite the exam or recertify. So these are tricks that help you with that. So this is, I'll open it up now. Those of you who have questions, we can look through the chat. But ASQ is the provider of not just the body of knowledge. There's a lot of content and a lot of people who are in the midst of this. So it's a very good resource professionally. I encourage you to explore, and I've for your convenience, I put up the websites of both Blue Ridge and Charlotte, and attending virtually and in person, and following ASQ in particular has a thing called Career Connection, and in January there's a member benefit on career, so I encourage you to use that as well to your advantage. Support section and divisions. In addition to my membership at the section level, I've really recognized the benefit of being at divisions. If you go to a world conference, all the divisions make a very big presence, not just intellectually, but they have hospitality nights, breakfast, lunch. So a $10 incremental charge for a division, you have the breakfast with the quality management division. There's, okay, your $10 is repaid that way. Lunch with the service quality division, your lunch is paid that way. So you can recoup your money many times over just from free meals. It's also a good way to build your quality connections, and then have, when you're on social media, I really became acquainted with Norval and Mutu through LinkedIn, and I think that we're in a very golden age of international collaboration, so I think that you should use this to your full advantage. So, and yeah, that's the map of where I'm at, and so thank you very much. I'll leave this back on questions, and I'll open up. I'll turn it back to Norval, and if there's any questions or you want me to refer back to any part of the presentation, I'd be delighted.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Appreciate your giving this talk today. One question I have for you, are you able to see the chat box?
I can. I'm looking at, let's see, I see a thing from John. Do you want me to address that one?
Yes, please.
How does it, I've made this similar jump, and programming is, that's going to limit you if you want to be an automated, if you want to create automated testing programs. So that's one of the things that you'll have to develop. But software, first of all, software quality, you can manage the system based on general ISO practices. It's just you have to emphasize more of the software side, more of the development side. But really, software quality assurance, verification, validation, is it fit for use? Is it do what it's supposed to do? So if you're capable of using a software product as a user, you can participate almost immediately in software QA. What the different orientation is that when I was in manufacturing, there were finite ways to inspect or review, do product testing itself, and that expands exponentially with software. I'm going to go to the slide which shows the perspectives of software. Okay. So as you can see, I'm on the software QA. There are the software quality factors. When looking at what is quality, there are 6 items: the functionality, usability, maintainability, reliability, portability, and efficiency. So something like this very product, this GoToMeeting, when someone was testing it, they had to understand, does it function correctly? Does it work? You notice there's no errors that come up. Portable, does it work on laptops? Does it work on mobile? Does it work on different brands of laptops, different operating systems? Usability, you notice that you can just log in without needing, you were guided very, very easily without needing to have a training thing. And you notice there hasn't been any errors or performance issues. So this is an example that you know, when you start off with software quality, you can bring some of this knowledge into the knowledge that you have, plus having an orientation of using the product in a way that the customer would expect. And actually people who have a prior quality background coming into software are much stronger because of that.
Okay, I've unmuted the mics for everybody, so if anybody would like to ask a question rather than type it into the chat box, feel free to do so.
Okay, thank you, John, for your kind comments. When did I obtain the certifications? This presentation, I obtained it, it wasn't quite sequentially with every transition. So I first got the CQE and in the late 1990s, and I really I got on a good momentum once. One of the things is when you at the time I got it in the 1990s, it was very inexpensive, and even more, the training was almost free. We just had to recover costs. So the span was 1998 to 2004, and you know, I got them as far as the auditing ones. I got the CQA first, and then I got the HACCP and the biomedical when they became available. My numbers for both, you notice how if you have a certification, you have a license number. My numbers are 100, so I was among the first, within the first 120 people to get those. So I was very much an early adopter of those items. Okay. There was one before Doug. I'll just okay. Let's see. Applications to, oh yeah, it's not the 10-year-old daughter. I've got two kids as well, and I encourage you to look at the certified quality technician, certified mechanical inspector, because they actually, especially the inspector one, touches on geometry, so it could help them in their high school. And it's yeah, you're never too young to learn about quality. What new waves do you see coming? That's a very good question. I think that you know, there's always a need for troubleshooting, and there's actually there's what I would see is how to get the same outcome of quality but done in a simpler way. So a simplification of the methodology, and you know, so that also you know, with what's termed big data, that the ability to capture large and diverse details concurrently with as they're done. For example, you can track when people, you know, if you notice on the phone, you can track when people go to a certain location, understanding that and then deriving, you know, some sort of a quality lesson from that. So that I think that you know, simplification, expansion of big data and analytics, and one of the things that I follow sports, and sports has really started to adopt analytics, not just to support decisions but to drive decisions, and you you know, the Chicago Cubs won their World Series largely because they had their leadership was more pro-analytics. So I think that seeing the success of you know, that type of math-based decisions and STEM will be very beneficial for the quality industry if we can, or quality professionals, if we can find a way to show how what we do aligns with that. Will this deck be shared? I've forwarded both the PDF and PowerPoint versions to Norval and Mutu, and so you'll have to ask them nicely. Let's see. Transition, yeah, it's not all transitions were of my choice. Sometimes things happen either at my employer or with the, you know, with the industry itself that you realize it's you have to make a decision. So they're interested in candidates who've worked in the same industry or worked for competitors. Yes, and one of the things that not everything worked out well for me. For example, I was in a situation where I was laid off from the software role, and it's very much a boom and bust, feast or famine type of business. One year we had very good bonuses, and the next year it was look to the left, look to the right, one of you three is going to be gone. So I work among food companies, and I thought, okay, I can take what I've done and maybe try to be a quality person in a place that made bread or a place that made sausages. But unfortunately, these particular places needed a food science background, and I wasn't even shortlisted. So I remember being, you know, somewhat distressed that I could be trusted with medical products, but not with a loaf of bread. So it's not universal, but I think that what you can do to try to overcome that is, you know, show where the experience you had matches what they truly need in a way that might even surpass their minimum requirements. So I term this the bring to the table, and you know, not every hiring manager is going to be receptive. So you have to craft your message in a way that will connect with their priorities. One of the best things is that by being part of the network and being visible, you can point to some of your other accomplishments and show how you can do that for their company as well. So. As far as competitors, that's a pro and a con to be in the competitor. On the one hand, you get that industry experience, but if you know, there's a reason that sometimes competitors have problems. You don't want to necessarily import the problems of your competitors and wreck the corporate culture that you have. So it's just, I think all you can do is make your own personal best case.
Okay, it looks like you have a question from Doug. I don't know if you saw that one or not.
I thought okay, there's Candace. Oh yeah, I did New Waves, and that's where I spoke about simplification, big data, continued technology and globalization.
Yeah, there's one further down where he asks, can you expand on your experience communicating with the C-suite?
Okay, yeah, this is kind of what I'm doing now. It's, first of all, it's like talking to very temperamental children, except these children have the power to fire you or give you bonuses. So it's, you really do have to, there are two demands on it. You have to have, first of all your facts the level of preparation is very high, and you have to speak in areas at high level which impact them. The typical response, you'll say, here's my update, and then they say, okay, so what, or what is that, what's the impact to me, or how does this affect my own decision? quite often communicating with C-suite, either you're trying to get something from them like additional financing, or you've made a commitment to them and you're reporting how you're doing relative to that commitment. So they're looking at ratios, they're looking at, so understanding first of all what they're seeking, and your information has to address that. So it's, yeah, it's, you got to presume impatience, you got to presume that they're distracted, and the other thing to presume is that they themselves are not the end of the line. They have to take what you give them and pass it on upwards and outwards. So you have to give their information in palatable forms that they can in turn communicate it accurately and in a way that will fulfill what they have to achieve. So for example, if you are reporting up to a person responsible for your site, that site person will take your information, whether it's about quality, whether it's about how much money was saved, and use that as part of their own success story or their own. So you recognizing that what you give them is you're part of their portfolio. So it also, you know, the C-suite, whatever they're in charge of, if they're the finance, they're going to orient towards finance. If they're the operations, they're going to orient towards throughput and how can we get more. And sometimes what they come back with, you just really have to listen without reacting. If they, let's say there's a job that takes 10 people 6 months to do, and they say, well, it should take 2 people and they should be able to do it in 3 weeks. So they're always going to push you down and you know, make them understand, you know, why things are the way they are, and you know, try to understand their perspective as well. So, you know, it's not easy.
Okay, did anybody else have additional questions for Dan? Okay, for those of you who were online with us today, you should be getting an email from Nick Auerkirk, who is the membership chair for the Blue Ridge section. In that email, you will be getting your certificate of attendance as well as the slide deck that Dan used today for his talk. And you will also be provided links to an event survey. We'd really appreciate it if you could please provide us with feedback from the talk that was given this morning. We really appreciate your time and effort in providing us feedback. And then we will also provide a link to where this webinar recording is on our YouTube channel too. So you should be able to go back and look at that again if you'd like to. If you don't have anything else, like I said before, the next webinar will be scheduled at lunchtime. It'll be on Thursday. It's Cyber Risk, A Quality Perspective, and it'll be by Harvey L. Johnson, who is at PB Mayers LLP in the Hampton Roads, Virginia area. We hope to see you online then. Once again, we thank you for joining us today and your commitment to quality. Thanks a lot, everybody. Bye now.
Thank you.